Yep, okay. We should have sound again. Can you hear that? I'm going to guess you can because I can see the thing moving, the input meter. Cool. Okay, cool. Welcome to me actually making sounds now. Um, so yeah, I was saying last week I was getting very excited about type classes and using a type class to separate out um, the storage layer from the data that we're storing inside it. So the plan is to get a storage layer that doesn't need to know anything about the data that's being stored. And to do that, I'm using a type class called storable, which will help sort of marshal and unmarshal data. Um, the plan for today is to continue with that process. I want to sort of take that further, finish off that piece of work so that the storage layer is completely devoid of any mention of hosts and participants. Those are the types of data I have so far. So it's going to be a little bit of refactoring and shuffling code around. Now, the reason I'm doing this, or one reason I'm doing it, is so that I end up with a completely agnostic storage layer, and then I can add another concept to Showtime. So Showtime is this application to help manage podcasts. At the minute, it manages the cast, so the person that's hosting it and the participants in the discussion. But I'm going to add the concept of topics, so we can just keep a list of upcoming topics. That's where I'll start. And I want to use the same storage layer to store topics without needing to introduce anything special into the storage layer. Okay, cool. That's the plan. So I hate computers so much. Um, okay, hopefully you can hear me again now. So you will have missed everything I said when I switched to this screen. Um, yeah, cool. Okay, what I said when I switched to this screen, if I can remember, is last week I was working these two functions amongst other things, but these two functions for loading hosts out of the storage file and loading participants out of the storage file. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the definition of the functions is actually the same. The only thing that's different between them is this type. And basically, we need this type because we need to tell the compiler, I guess, what what implementation of unmarshal it's going to use. Um, so what I'd like to do initially is to replace these two functions with a single function and find a way of calling it with and knowing the type when we call it and use that to help the compiler work out which implementation of unmarshal is going to use. So what I actually want is a generic load. I already have a function called load, so I'm actually going to do a little bit of work up front by just deleting it. I'm going to delete this as well. Let me just comment them out for a second. Nope, I've missed. Deleted them. Okay, that will do. They're gone. So I want to write. I need to just fix all the problems with this field. We get rid of that line. I'm going to write a new function called load. And that's going to have a type. So we're going to have something which is a storable. And given something of type storable, we're going to say we take an append, we return an IO of where that storable thing is. And the definition of this is just actually going to be the same as this. Okay. So then I want to use that to load hosts and load participants. So I can get rid of these and don't export them anymore. And this is good. My end goal is to get rid of the import of cast completely. So for now, let's remove all redundant imports. Okay, so I have a single function here called load. It doesn't know what it's loading, it just knows it's storable, and then the caller will have to I guess when we're calling it, the compiler will have to be able to work out what the type of S is, so it knows which implementation of a Marshall we're going to call. Okay, so if we go back to main, we should have some errors in here, I think. We have more errors than I expected. It failed to run Cabal. What's the problem? Oops. Oh, we got some unused things. Okay. Is host and cleanup in the storage class. They were used in the old implementation of read, of load, which I'm going to slowly start replacing. Okay, that should hopefully make it happier. And compile build, see how far it gets. Okay, this is what I expect to see, which is in main we should have some errors. Restart LSP. Yep, okay, cool. So here load prime is no longer a thing. Okay, so what I hope we can do is we can say hosts comes from load and participants comes from s.load, passing in the environment. Now, I don't think this is not going to work right because the compiler won't know which implementation of storable thing it's loading. So I think we need to give it a type as well. So I think we might need to just say this. It needs to be an array of host. It actually needs to be IO array of host, I guess. Wonder if I can. What I really want to do is give the type of this. I don't think that's correct syntax. Can I say host is a type array of host? I cannot. So I think this is the best I can do. And this is going to type array of host. Ooh, not that. Okay. That's the first error. We should have some other errors. The load host is not a thing anymore. So we should be able to say this, but again, this does not have a type, so it won't know how to how that's going to work. I think it's I might just do this by defining a function because I go with defining a type. So we can say load host is of type IO list of host. Say load host is equal to s.load, passing an environment. Now we can use that here. Okay, and then there should be a list participants later on. Going to be the same problem. So it's not helpful. We can say where load participants has got a type of IO list of participants. And then we can say load participants equal to s.load in this case, asking the environment, and then that's it. So we say that. Okay. And then we have an original function that I wrote before, which used the old implementation of s.load. And that used to return the hosts and the participants. So what we can actually do is, I might just copy these for a second. I'm going to come back and tie this up later, but for now, if I just create my two functions, so that was load host, and it's of type IO of host. And then here we should be able to say S comes from load hosts and participants comes from load participants. Is that right? So what's the problem now? Much type participant with host. Expected list of hosts, actual list of participants. Oh, yeah, okay. So the old load did not return these things. It returned, I can find the old implementation, but it returned, not really. It returned a list of these old types. So I had person, which is lower than the file now. Yeah, person, which is just a type list for text. So I'd previously defined host as being a list of text, essentially, and participants as being a list of text again. So the old load used to return a pair of lists of essentially text, because the type lists will be removed. So we'll end up with two lists of text, one representing host, one representing participants, and then we can this delete made sense because we were deleting something from a list of the same type of things. But now the host has actually got a different type. It's now of type host. Participants is of type participant. So what we used to do think is participants was everybody, I think, in the old load function. So what we really want to do here is taking the host is fine, that makes sense. But taking the rest of participants needs to pick from a list that contains both hosts and participants. So I don't really want to fix that now. What I'm going to do is say I'm only going to pick it from participants. For now, I need to come back and fix this later or forget about it, but I hope to come back and fix it. Okay, and then this cast type has got person and person. What we actually want to do is say this is a host and this is a list of participants. And then this cast participants has not got, well, we need to show this basically. Or do we? No, okay, we need to unparticipant it. We need to turn it back into text. So we can say map get participant over the participants. Okay, oops. And now our next error is because of the host, so we can say get host from that. Okay. Okay, not great for now because I'm partway through a refactor, but at least the errors have gone away. But the things we really changed. Get rid of that. The things that we really changed were listing the hosts, which now uses this new generic load function, listing participants, which uses the generic load function, and I guess list of picking a cast. So let's see if they still run. Let's build a project first. Okay, so listing participants still works, I believe. Wrong word there. Hosts list still work. Yep. I think. And then if you run it, oh, and you should pick a cast. And that still works by the looks of it. So the host here has come from the hosts list, and the participants have come from the participants list. Okay, not quite the right behavior, but it compiles. Okay, so the point of all of that was to get rid of some of the imports in here. So now this knows nothing about hosts or participants. Remove also knows nothing about hosts or participants. Add doesn't seem to, add does a little bit because it's got this host prefix. Okay. And then I think, is that it? Is there, the only thing we're importing from cast now is a storable type. So what I want to do is move the storable type class out of the cast file where we're defining the types and move it into here. Because this is where it really belongs. I couldn't do that initially because that would have created a circular dependency because the storage class was importing a lot of stuff about hosts and participants. But it doesn't anymore. So I can get rid of that. And I can drop it into here. The storage that's storable makes more sense to me. And then we should just be able to import this. Okay, we're almost done. We don't import cast storable. We should import storage. The reason I got it wrong is because I export it from here. And I don't export it from here. And I can get rid of that. Okay, and we will import everything from that type class. Okay, slightly better. So storage now contains the type class storable, and then some generic methods to add, remove, and load. And then the only problem we have is this line. So the reason this exists is because when you try and add someone, say you try and add Betty to the file, Betty could be a participant, in which case it's just the string Betty in the file, or Betty could be a host, in which case it's the word host followed by Betty. And you don't want to add someone as a host if they're already a participant, or add them as a participant if they're already a host. So when we call add, what it's trying to do is check that it doesn't exist already. And it does that by looking in all the lines in the file and saying, are any of these lines Betty? And also, are any of these lines host Betty? And if that matches, then it doesn't add them because they already exist. I'm going to move this logic, and I'm going to move a little bit more logic into the cast. So I think in a perfect world, I would maybe have storage, which is just agnostic of any of the types and just put stuff into files. I would have cast, which defines things like the host and the participant, and implements maybe doesn't implement these, but it would define the types for host and participant, and then it would maybe have some kind of host store cast storage module, which glues the two together, which would understand a little bit about cast and understand a little bit about storage, and it would be the glue, and it would implement the storable. I'm not sure it's worth doing because we'd end up with almost nothing in this file. So I'm just going to put everything into here, I think. I think I can just delete these because they're not used anymore. It's a little bit shorter, but I'm going to add some functions to here which are storage related. So let me just jump down to the end. I think I'm just going to put them in the end. So one of them is load host. I'm going to move that logic into here. So that takes an append and it produces an IO of list of host. I could copy it, but it's so short I can just write it, I think. Append. You see, this is equal to s dot load. That might be it. Okay, can we import append? Yes, we can. And I'm going to import qualified storage. Import qualified storage as s. Okay, and it's not used, so I will export it from here. So load hosts will go into here. And then I'm going to add load participants. I will copy this because it's the same. And so that's participants. And the only thing different here is the type. So what I'm going to start doing is moving some logic out of main and into here. And then I'm going to also add the function to help with adding somebody. And that's where I'm going to understand how to look for duplicates in both hosts and participants. Participants. Oops. Okay, back to main. We import cast. I'm going to import a qualified as well. Cast with cast. That's the same as just not saying it. Remember. Right. So these listing functions. Cast. Load hosts. And that didn't work. Oh, because I'm not passing an env, that's why. Sorry, cast dot load hosts. Passing an env. Okay, and then the load participants, I'm going to use cast load participants. Passing environment. Okay, that's the first bit. Remove. I guess to be tidy, I should put everything in the same place. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think I will create a new module called cast storage, which does this kind of gluing of the two things together. Partly because I'm actually a little bit uncomfortable putting IO into this file. I'd like this to be sort of pure, just to find the types, and we'll gather all the IO stuff up and put it together, and then we can call it from main. But we shouldn't have. I don't think we should have effects at this kind of level. Okay, so to add something, I need to go to the file library. So we have storage, cast, and append. I'm also going to above. I'm also going to have cast storage, and that Showtime source, and then we'll have cast storage. Second, yep, I think it must be working because it's got up. We'll export some stuff where let's go and grab them out of cast. There. So we need to import we need to import host no code available, so I've obviously completely broken something. As is stopped. So it's annoying. I don't know why it's breaking when there is an error rather than just telling what the error is. Does it work if I restart it? Nope. Okay. This is too broken for it. Okay, so we go to load. Not cast at load host, it's now cast storage. And this is cast storage at load participants. Oops. And now we want to go to cast storage and export some stuff. Well, we want to import host. And we want to import participant. It can do one thing and then it crashes again. Participant. And here we want to export load hosts and load participants. Okay, I'm just going to run compile build to see how broken it is. Open cast. Still trying to export those. Okay, FM's redundant, storage is redundant. I think that's good. Okay, not in scope S, so we can import or qualified storage as S. That's okay. Oh, no, let's formulate that. Okay, and what else? A little bit tempted to move these definitions as well, but then I'm not entirely sure what would remain in here. Well, let's find out, I guess. So in here, I want to say I'm just writing that error message, sorry. Let's pull in storable. Host the import list. Oh, I do. I want to import all of this. Okay, I have so many errors here. So get host. Oh, hang on. Orphan instance. move the instance declaration to the modular class of the type, or wrap the type of the new type in the instance of the new type. Okay, so I cannot move this into here without causing myself a lot of problems. Okay, undo that. So I will leave the definition of storable next to the definition of the type itself. But these functions have to load and add and remove stuff, I can put into here. Okay, so I might have a new function called loadCast. And that's going to take the app-env and go to IO. I'm actually going to return a pair at this point. I'm going to return the host and the participants. So loadCast with an env very simply is, I say very simply, but it's the host comes from load host of env, and participants comes from load participants of env, and then we just return that list of that pair of hosts and participants. Missed list of hosts. Okay, and then I will export loadcast. Okay, and then I kind of want to keep this module just to do with storing and retrieving data. If I want to refactor this function, which picks a cast, I want to move. I want to keep this logic of the random number generator and this logic of picking a random host and picking the participants, the right number of participants. I want to keep that somewhere else. It's not storage related. So I might, for now, I'll just keep it here, I think. Will I do that? Yeah, okay. So now we can have hosts and participants. Comes from loadcast. My language server is not working because it should be complaining at this point. Okay, we will import cast storage loadcast, and that gets past the env and participants. I spelled it correctly. Okay. So you can say the host is, sorry, the single host is picking someone at random from the hosts. And I think I want to say everyone. I'm going to just turn this into text. So I can say let everyone equal, and then we will map get host over the host, and we will join that onto, I messed that up. Map it, to map it over the hosts, and then we will map get participants over the participants. Can't really type or spell participants, seems. Okay, let's get everyone. Participant as well. I don't want to just take the head of that. I actually want to turn that back into a I think I want to turn it back into text. or maybe I don't, because that's what cast is doing later on. I'll get rid of these definitions because we moved them somewhere else. Okay, so we have everyone, and now what we can do is we can take these people I'm going to do a terrible thing. So the get host and get participant will turn them back into text, and it'll throw away the host prefix. So if I had something like a list where we had host Betty, list, if we had host Betty and host Bob as our list of hosts, if we run get host over that, we're going to transform it into a list of just Betty and Bob. And for participants, we actually start with a string that's just Betty and Bob, but as typed as participant, I'll turn it back into just text objects of Betty and Bob. What I will end up with then is just a list of text with no prefixes in there. What I can do, which is a little bit icky, I think, is I can say all participants, and then I can just run participant over everyone and turning everything back into participant types. And then I can pick from all participants. So now we can pick hosts as participants again. Okay, maybe at some point in the future I'll come back to this because it's a bit nasty, but it does the job. Okay, so some more refactoring. What did we have? We had add host. In fact, let's just do this. So we go back to cast storage. These are our loading functions. Now we can have our adding. Just have add host. And I think we can just do this. Wait, no, it doesn't offer to import qualified for me. It knows it's the text, but it won't offer to do the right import. I have to type things. Import qualified data.text as T. And then this one we can just rename to remove host. And then we can actually export these. So add host, remove host. I might reorder these a little bit. So we put cast first, and we put all the host stuff and all the participant stuff. Okay, and then back here, so we don't call S anymore, we should call cast storage. And I shouldn't need to turn this into a host. We should be able to say cast storage add host, environment, and then just name. Well, if it's environment and name, then it get rid of them. Okay, and here we do the same thing. We can say cast storage dot remove host. Okay. I'm also going to get rid of storage from main, so everything will go through this intermediary layer. Okay. Participants. Just these things. So drop them into there. So add participant. I think, oh, no, let's delete this. And remove participant, just select that, and then we just export them. Add participant and remove participant. Okay. And then here I should be able to do a similar thing where I get rid of that and we say this is equal to cast storage dot add participant. Same thing here. Cast storage dot remove participant. Okay, get rid of S yet? Get rid of text. Where is S used? Let me delete it and see what breaks. List. Okay. Now we can say hosts is just cast storage dot load hosts. In fact, we just load the cast, didn't we? Hosts and participants, and that's just load cast. Of M. Okay. So now adding and removing. These are currently very simple, but what I want to do is make sure that it does not already contain that entry before I call s.add. So I think what I really want to say is something like if not exists. Right, we're going to need to do a few steps here. So, but the principle is if we don't already have this person in the file, then we'll add them. But if we do have them in the file, then we won't do anything. So what was the logic we had for that? Currently in storage, I want to lift it out. Unless something exists in something else. Let me just copy all this. Sneaky do in there. Oops. Paste it there. Put the do in place. Okay. So we have a name. We don't have contents at the moment. I could just say, I could export something from stories to say, give me all of your lines. Doesn't feel quite right. So what I might do is get it to give me back the list of hosts and the list of participants, and then check through those two lists. Okay, so number of helper at the end of the file. So we're going to call this contains. Is that's going to be built-in, isn't it? What's the type of contains? Not in scope. Okay, maybe I can use that name. Okay, so contains is going to take append and it's going to take a string and return a bool. contains. Oh, sorry, it's going to turn IO bool because we need to go and talk to the file to get some content back. So m the name, and we will get back the hosts and the participants. And this comes from s.loadcast. No, it comes from loadcast in this file. Env. Okay, so we have our list of host participants. And just let me tidy this up. So contains is not quite what I want to say, because you say something is contained in something else, but it's not like something is contained in app-env. So maybe like already exists or already in cast. Okay, so I'm just going to fix up my errors here. So unless already in cast and name, oh, X. Unless we already have that person in the file, then we're going to do this. Okay. We don't need to do. We need the extra lines. Right. So we loaded our host and our participants. I'm just thinking ahead a little bit here, actually. If we try and add a host under a participant, we actually want to make them a host. So if they're already a host, then we do nothing. If they're a participant, then we make them a host. And participants, I don't really know what we do. So actually, for now, I'll just say that if they're in the file, we will just not do anything. For now, come back to this later. So we load our cast. Okay, so what we can return is, we can say is participant of name. We can say is that an element of participants. Oh, I need to back the name. I missed slightly. Get back name. Just to turn it to text. So we're going to say, is this an element of this? Replace with the correct function in. That's a good idea. What does elem return? Elem.type ATH bool, which is fine. We said IO bool, so it should be pure of this. Get rid of the bracket. Okay, so we're going to say treat name as participant, look at participants, or treat it as a host and see is it an element of host. Is it an element of host? Sorry, almost there. Okay. So we need to pull in unless. already in cast. What's wrong with this? Match expected type bool was type IO bool. So the type of unless is this should be bool. Okay, so I do need to do in here. Say exists is already in cast. Env name. You say unless exists, add it. Okay, we don't have an equality yet for participants and hosts, but we can fix that quite quickly. What else? I might just, before I go, tidy stuff a bit. So there's a lot of TDUP pack going on. You can say text name. Right, let's call this string name. And then we can say let name be pack string name. And then we can say here just hosted name. And down here we can change to text. And then we can get rid of here. And we will import text. So convert to the type. Oh, it's data.text. Okay, we're back to the right error, which is we're missing equality for participant and host. So back to here. New type host. Deriving stock EQ. Deriving strategies. There we go. Okay. And participant, same thing. Deriving stock EQ. Okay. So now when we call now we've got add host, we're going to check it doesn't exist, and we're going to add it. Okay, so our participant, we need to do the same thing. String name. I'm going to just do this. So instead of adding host, we're going to add participant. Okay, can we refactor that because it's the same? Can we say add unless exists? And that's going to take the append in the middle. The append is going to take text. Text, yeah. String. We're all taking string. And it's going to do nothing except that this is different each time. So what we actually want is a function that goes from text to s, where s is some kind of storable s. Type signature, what? Storable? Oh, it's not scope. Okay, file. And then add unless exists. So what have we got here? We've got the env, we've got the name, and we've got the storable thing. Then we can grab this, drop it in there. We've got the name, haven't we? We don't call participant here, we call storable. Okay, and then the definition of this. Oh, let me flip the order around a bit. Makes it easier to partially apply. Thanks to S to that. We'll just flip these around a bit. Okay, so now the definition of participant can just be add unless exists participant. Cool. No reused code there, and then this one will be the same thing, more or less. Add unless exists host. Okay. Now, almost there. Here. Here's that. Here's that. So add is incredibly simple. Add will just do what you tell it. Okay. One warning. We don't use that install anymore. Now, in this file, we don't import cast. This is a storage file. We don't import cast. And we don't have any mention of hosts or participants. This is entirely agnostic now. This prefix I never used in the end. Because rather than getting the prefix and doing string comparison, I'm actually just turning it back into the storable type and then doing the comparison there. Because I've removed that, I need to remove it from here. Means I can get rid of host prefix. I cannot. Let's leave it in there. Okay. I already have a show instance for participants. I don't need to use get host. I can say show that and map show there. No. Why not? What is show doing? Participant string. Oh, wait a second. These are texts. Bit like titles. Okay, I can't use show because it would return a string, but at this point, we're text. This is text. Okay. Oh, does it still work? So let's have a quick look and see what's on our people file. We've got 3 hosts and a bunch of participants. So if I say, I'll run that, and we're going to say participants add Bob, the array host, it should have done nothing. I think that's cool. So if we say almost hosts add, and we will add Bippy, it should have also done nothing. I don't think that's quite right, but it's what I wrote. Okay, the code works. So let me, before I do anything else, I'm running out of time. Actually, I might just leave it at this point. So I'll just commit the stuff. But basically what I did is I removed all knowledge of cast stuff from the storage class, from the storage module. Yep. So, remove knowledge of cast types from storage. This makes storage agnostic of the data being stored, as long as that data implement that data, the data implements type. As long as that data type implements the storable class. This will allow me to use storage module to store other non-cast data. Cool, and then push upstream. Okay, so next week I'll come back and add topics. That refactor took me a little bit longer than I thought. But yeah, plan is next week. Where are we? In main, when we have this list of command parsing. Here, I'm going to add. Well, I might start moving some of this code out as well, but I'm going to add another thing for managing topics, so you can add and remove topics, and then we'll look at something to pick random or suggest topics. Yeah, that's the plan for next week. Cool. Thanks for watching along. I hope you enjoyed watching me refactor some code. Actually, it's quite pleasant in Haskell. And people say it's a lot that it's good to refactor in Haskell. And as I'm starting to learn more Haskell, I'm finding that it was actually quite a pain-free process to move a lot of code around. But yeah, enjoyed it. Hope you did too, and hopefully see you next week. Goodbye.